Without wanting to sound like a conspiracy theorist, there are some families who exercise control over elected politicians. They tend to be well-established industrial heirs. Some have held influence for many generations, while others are just getting started. The Krupp family have long enjoyed owning their steel empire. Their dynasty began in 1587 when an ordinary man bought abandoned real estate during the Black Death. His descendants used the profits to go into the arms business. In 1816, they moved into the steel business and became the world's biggest producer of steel by the end of that century. They built tanks and battleships for Nazi Germany, and the family personally supported Hitler. At the end of the war, their factories were destroyed, but they rebuilt. Although past their prime, the Krupp family still have considerable influence in the steel business. The Tatar family also made their bones in the steel business, but now they do so much more. They own a massive holding company called Tatar Group, which operates in all kinds of industries, from food and drink to defense and aerospace. Tatar Group own many brands we're familiar with, like Jaguar Land Rover, and their total assets are worth over $120 billion. Tata has emerged with the rise of the Indian economy, and many see the Tata family as representing Indian ambition. As always, their financial success has brought them political influence, and as a worldwide business, their influence is becoming ever more international. No banking family is more well known than the Rockefellers. Their story began with John D. Rockefeller. Born into poverty, he became the most wealthy American of all time. His company, Standard Oil, once controlled 90% of oil in the United States. Many of his descendants became influential figures in banking and politics, which is why conspiracy theorists are obsessed with them. The Rockefellers own valuable real estate globally and still maintain huge wealth, although it's unknown just how wealthy they are. The Kennedy family is basically a political dynasty. Between 1947 and 2011, at least one Kennedy held office at a national level, like being a senator or a governor. This gives them direct power, unlike other families who only influence politicians. But you wouldn't want to be a Kennedy. The family is now more associated with tragedy than anything else, with family members repeatedly being assassinated and dying in terrible accidents. Those who don't die young tend to have problems with addiction. The House of Saba is the royal family of Kuwait. They hold absolute power. With Kuwait being an oil-rich country, this essentially gives them unlimited wealth. Kuwait may not seem like a very powerful nation, but it is thanks to their strategic position. It's a relatively stable nation in a very unstable region, making NATO want to stay in their good books. That's to the direct benefit of the House of Saba. The Bush family may seem to have disappeared after Jeb failed them, but they still hold significant influence in US politics. In fact, they have been described as the most successful political dynasty in American history. They've had 2 presidents and several governors and senators, but the Bush family stretches much further. Many of its members hold executive positions in massive corporations. One of their relatives was executed in the Salem witch trials. There are too many historically important Bushes to mention. I just wanted to include the witch thing. Although it could be called a shadow of its former self, the Rothschild family remain an important banking dynasty. It began in the 18th century with a self-made banker. He sent his 5 sons to 5 different countries, where they each established a bank. As their banking network grew, so did their political influence. In many European countries, they were accepted into the aristocracy, being given titles like Baron, some of which are still held. In Victorian times, they had the largest private fortune in the world. Today, they still possess great wealth. The Walton family own 52% of Walmart. You may wonder why this makes them powerful, but Walmart is a huge chain. Their revenue this year has been almost $500 billion. Money always brings power, and the Walton family fortune is worth over $130 billion. Walmart is efficient with political influence. At one point, they campaigned for a rise in minimum wage, as they knew smaller competitors would be unable to pay their employees. The Koch family are the most hated on this list, which is amazing considering dictators are also listed. Fred C. Koch built Koch Industries from scratch. He's now dead, but his company remains under the control of his children. It's actually the second largest privately owned corporation in the US, with a revenue of over $100 billion. Leveraging their massive wealth, they buy political influence. Through campaign donations, they seem to have become the puppet masters of US politics, with politicians competing for their funding. The House of Saud is the ruling family of Saudi Arabia. They hold absolute power. The country was even named after them. Apparently, there are 15,000 members of the family. With the head of the family being king of an oil-rich nation, they essentially possess unlimited wealth. They can even go to war if they want to, which they have done in Yemen. Internationally, they hold influence, with NATO being heavily invested in the stability of Saudi Arabia. They can basically do anything they like. So that's the end of this video. If you want to support this channel, you can do so simply by leaving a like. And if you want more content from me, I have a second channel all about politics.